All right. Welcome to another episode of Black People Kind of News, episode 11. We're going to be talking about our main topic today is going to be most Black Americans believe U.S. racism will get worse in their lifetime, according to a poll. Now, this is very interesting. This is fascinating because you're telling me what I already know, but it's something that I believe is a very interesting phenomenon in that people need to be shown by others that Black people are right, that we have a point. So with that being said, let's get into this because I want people to see this. Black Americans believe U.S. racism will get worse in their lifetime. Why would we as Black Americans, the native Black Americans, foundational Black Americans, Black descendants of American slaves, or Black immigrants who happen to become Black Americans now, people who have immigrated here, why do we universally believe that racism will get worse in our lifetime? Why do we believe that? Why on earth, if we are constantly told that if we simply just stop talking about racism, and many of us have, then it will just get better. We were told that if we just assimilate it, it would get better. And many of us have tried to actually do that. But you see, let me explain something to you. Let me give an example of the reasons why a Black American would believe that racism will get worse in our lifetime. You see, I'm from South Carolina. That's where 40% of the slaves came in through the port of Charleston. Now, don't get it twisted. There are already Black people here, but the ones that did come off of slave ships happened to come through the port of Charleston. So I come from a state where it was if you believe that all of them came off the slave ships, and they haven't, but if you believe that, then that would be ground zero. Or if you believe, like I believe, that many of us were already here, then it was one of the biggest jumping points for U.S. slavery in this country. And that's the kind of state that I come from. Ground zero. The port of Charleston. So if I were to say I've experienced extreme racism in my lifetime, and yet I come to a state like Washington State, and the first sheriff that I run into is Ed Troyer. I currently am in Pierce County. Ed Troyer is my sheriff. Ed Troyer was on criminal trial because he lied on a Black newspaper carrier. He claimed the man was going to take him out, say all kind of threats to him, and that never happened. Ed Troyer was placed on trial, and he was let off on a technicality. I come from a state where a man enslaved a Black man for years and only received 10 years in prison. I used to work corrections in that state. Let me tell you, I've seen guys who have sold a little bit of green stuff and gotten more time than that. So I want you to understand the reasons why most Black Americans believe U.S. racism will get worse in their lifetime. And we didn't need this poll to let you know that. You could have just been listening to us. Every time that we have a mass demonstration of a response to police violence, like with Mike Brown, Eric Garner, George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Sandra Bland, Dante Wright, Philando Castile. It doesn't matter. The list goes on, and there's so many names. Tamir Rice, Elijah McClain, so many names. So many names. Every time that we give a response, each and every time, what do you notice the reaction is from certain segments of white America? Well, you have one segment who says, oh, we're so shocked by this. And yet we've been saying the exact same thing. The same kind of things that would have informed you of these things, you ban from schools. You call it CRT. The things that would have informed you of these things, you don't want to hear, and then you're shocked when it happens. And then you get the other side who they're like glorified ostriches. They just bury their heads in the sand. Oh, it's not happening. It's not as worse. It could have been justified. What did they do wrong in their past? And now I guarantee you, if I were to show this same poll to a lot of people, they're going to give those one or two responses. Very, very shocked or dismissive. Never acceptance. The reality of being Black in America is that people can only be shocked by your response or dismissive. Never, ever understanding. People like, well, you're judging me now. Okay, cool. If I'm so wrong, prove me wrong. If you're going to tell me to be the better man, you be the better freaking man. You're always telling me that. Practice what you preach. But the thing is that when it comes to Black Americans, people can't do that because they rely off of our misery and off of our commodity of working, paying taxes, and also being in a certain position so that they can feel superior. That's why we believe U.S. racism will get worse, because we've always believed U.S. racism will get worse. And what decade in your lifetime did you not suspect U.S. racism to get worse? Was it Barack Obama? You knew he was going to get worse then. By the way, make sure you guys are sharing the stream. Make sure you guys are liking the stream. Make sure you guys are sharing the stream with everybody, that you know. Because I want people to know that I run this for you guys. I want people to know that I run this for you guys. It's all for you. It's all for you. It's like Janet Jackson. You know? The reason why we believe that U.S. racism will get worse is because it never got better. So let's get into this article here. Most Black Americans believe racism in the United States will get worse during their lifetime, according to a new poll. A Washington Post Ipsos poll released Friday showed that 51% of Black respondents said they expect racism will get worse, while 37% said they expect it to that they expect it will stay the same. Only 11% said it will get better. Only 11%. So even the hopeful old Democrats, you know, the old ones, the ones that sit on their porches and lecture the young folks about vote blue no matter who, even those types are starting to see the light here. This was mostly consistent across age groups of Black respondents. Those 50 to 64 were the most likely to say they expect racism to actually get worse, with 57% saying so, while those 30 to 39 were the least likely, with 43% saying so. But no more than 13% of any age group said they expect racism to get better. So no more than 13% of any Black group in age thought that racism would get better. Folks, that is what you call consistency. The results contrast somewhat with the respondents overall. Almost 40% of all respondents said they expect racism to get worse, and they expect it to remain about the same. About a fifth said they expect it to improve. Wow. Nearly 70% of Black Americans said now is a more dangerous time to be a Black teenager when they were teens, including almost 80% of those 50 to 64%, almost 80% of those 50 to 64 years of age and 65 and older. Almost 60% of Black adults said that they are very or somewhat worried they or someone they love will be attacked because they are Black. Wow. So over half of the respondents who are Black adults said they expect or they are worried or somewhat worried that they or someone they love will be attacked because they're Black. Folks, this is a poll that was taken in 2023. You asked Black Americans how we felt. We told you. Now you can say, "Oh, that's unreasonable," and that's the dismissiveness that we're talking about. This is why you have the George Floyds, the Eric Garners, and all the instances of racism that you just hand wave away. You won't even listen to. And this is why a lot of us have gotten to a point where we won't even talk to you. It's nothing personal. It's just we are so used to the freaking dismissiveness. Instead of looking to argue, look to listen and understand. It's not that we're asking you to just automatically agree. We're asking you to engage in good faith, but you won't do that. And I mean that to all of America, all political parties, Democrats and Republicans. It doesn't matter what age group, it doesn't matter what state. It's all been relatively the same for Black Americans. Pollsters also found that the expected level of trust between Black and white Americans seems to be low. 8 in 10 Black respondents said they believe white people trust Black people not too much or not at all. While only 17% say they believe they trust Black individuals a great deal or a good amount. White respondents were much more likely to say they believe white people trust Black people, with 44% saying they think white people trust Black people a great deal or good amount. So basically what you have there and what that is demonstrating is that we have two separate realities. We have two separate realities. And what we have to do, you know, I don't mean we as Black Americans, I mean as white America. We have said this stuff consistently. There's not been a time in which these polls have been different for us. It's just being publicized. I want to tell you that. I'm from South Carolina. I'm in Washington State. I think I've traveled through the United States at least to get here, right? But I've made that trip several times. I mean, a lot by car. And let me tell you, it's not just a few of us who think this, and it's nothing personal. It's just that we want someone to engage in good faith. In good faith. That means that consider a perspective that's not something that you usually agree with. Because if something happens and it's truly shocking, then perhaps you're the problem. But the problem with so many in white America is that we have been taken through a great deal of projection and gaslighting. What do I mean by that? You got people who are saying, hey, I feel like I'm being targeted because I'm white. Okay. Let's examine that belief. Let's examine that belief. Are you disproportionately to homeless? No. Are you disproportionately to people who are being exonerated for crimes that they've never committed? No. That's according to the Innocence Project. That's why I support them. Because by supporting them, it's kind of like self-preservation. I support my people too. Not only are they freeing white people too, but they are disproportionately freeing black people. They said that themselves. I think they would kind of know what they are talking about versus some random eavesdropper or some random commentator who probably hasn't researched that subject or freed an innocent person like the Innocence Project has. I think they are a bit of experts in this field. You would think, right? With that being said, you're not disproportionately exonerated. You're not disproportionately impoverished. You're not disproportionately fired. Your businesses are not disproportionately shut down. And there isn't a history of the civil rights movement, Jim Crow, slavery. So unless you can hop all those hurdles, well, what about the Irish? Shut the hell up about the Irish. They were indentured servants. But once again, the reason why nothing ever changes for people in this country is because people don't want to be honest. People lie. What about the Irish when you know good and well they were indentured servants? And even if there were some Irish slaves, do you really think it compares to us? Even Donald Trump himself got on television and said, Black Americans built the country. That is a direct quote. If even that man can admit what we did, why can't the average caring white American accept that? If even Donald Trump said that we built the country. It's because even racists want to be included. Even racists want to be included. You know you don't suffer like black folks do, but you want to feel like it. So you claim it. You know good and well affirmative action doesn't benefit black people in the majority. It benefits mostly white women. Anyone can Google that. I will bet anybody $5,000 right now on the spot. Google it. Affirmative action benefits mostly white women. That's been known for quite some time. Because once you added women as minorities, that's it. They count as minorities, and therefore they qualify for affirmative action. The early wave feminists added that in there because they wanted to undermine black people. A lot of people don't know that. The early wave feminists wanted women added into affirmative action because it would undermine black people. A lot of people don't know that. A lot of people have never even heard that before. But you know what? I'm going to take a little detour. I want people to see this, though. I want to look that up real quick. Affirmative action benefits mostly white women. I want people to see this. So, this right here is from Time Magazine. Affirmative action has helped white women more than anyone. Yes, affirmative action has helped mostly white women, not black people. That has been known for a while. And the people who are citing affirmative action as something to help black people are horrible people because they're liars. They know affirmative action has been benefiting mostly white women for some time now. I'm going to quote this now because I want to put this to bed once and for all. Once and for all. Originally, women weren't even included in legislation attempting to level the playing field in education and employment. The first affirmative action measure in America was an executive order signed by President Kennedy in 1961, requiring that federal contractors, quote, take affirmative action to ensure that applicants are employed and employees are treated during employment without regard to their race, creed, color, or national origin, end quote. In 1967, President Johnson amended this, and a subsequent measure included sex, recognizing that women also face many discriminatory barriers and hurdles to equal opportunity. Meanwhile, the Civil Rights Act of 1964 only included sex in the list of prohibited forms of discrimination because conservative opponents of the legislation hoped that including it would sway moderate members of Congress to withdraw their support for the bill. Still, in a nation where white women and black people were once considered property, not allowed to own property themselves and not allowed to vote, it was clear to all those who were seeking fairness and opportunities that both groups face monumental obstacles. White people of color individually and as groups have helped by affirmative action in the subsequent years. Data and studies suggest white women in particular, have benefited disproportionately. According to one study in 95, 6 million women, the majority of whom were white, had jobs they wouldn't have otherwise held but for affirmative action. So affirmative action has benefited white women more than anybody else. I just read the proof to you. It's been studied up and down from Harvard, from Yale. I mean, every major school has done the study. And there you are. It is very clear that affirmative action has benefited white women more than black people as a whole. The Chronicle of Higher Education. They just spelled out. I mean, people have spelt this out for the longest time. For the longest time. And I really want people to take that in. That's why black people don't expect racism to actually improve. We expect it to get worse. Because the things that you use and you tout that actually helps us, not only does not help us, it helps your women. No offense to anybody who's listening. Just being honest. Just being honest. Which lets you know, and it also informs you the reason why in this article here, where I'm talking about most Black Americans believe U.S. racism will get worse in their lifetime, according to a poll. The reason why everything that I just said about affirmative action benefiting mostly white women over Black people as a whole, it's been known for some time, but a lot of white people still believe the opposite, right? A lot of white people still believe that affirmative action benefits Black people more than white people, even though affirmative action benefits more white women alone than all Black people combined. Disproportionately benefits them. Because once you added women to that, once President Johnson, racist, white supremacist President Lyndon B. Johnson, once he amended that and added women to it, that means white women could get affirmative action, and they are counted as minorities. So guess what? They get affirmative action. And there's a lot more white women than there are Black people, probably. I'm willing to bet. Right? So understand something, right? When you look at this article here, where you're talking about most Black people expect U.S. racism to get worse in their lifetime, you have here, and this is why I actually highlighted this part, white respondents were much more likely to say they believe white people trust Black people, with 44% saying they think white people trust Black people a great deal or a good amount. Now, I want you to take that, right? Right? Take that. Take that. Take that and think to yourself. You have a population that you're dealing with that thinks that racism and trust between the communities is going to get better. A population that uses affirmative action against us, right? When affirmative action benefits mostly white people, with white women in particular, you're not disproportionately to homeless. You're not disproportionate to people who are being released for crimes they never committed. We are the number one demographic being released from prison for crimes that we never committed. The number one demographic disproportionately in prison for crimes that never had a victim. And Republicans who want to deny that, and all the people who want to argue with me, how can you say that the 1994 crime bill targeted Black people if that's not true? You're gonna have to concede one. Pick one or the other. Either the 1994 crime bill targeted Black people or it didn't. If it actually disproportionately targeted Black people, or it affected Black people more than white people. Before you say, well, you voted for Joe Biden, shut up. Before you say that, concede one point. At some point, we were targeted, right? Good. So now that we've conceded that, like adults, how in the world is it that we live in two separate realities as Americans? We expect racism to get worse, while other groups in a much higher number than us expect for it to get better, or it's going to remain about the same. It's almost like the same white America who was marching with us during the 2020 protests, the same white America who says, "Hey, we're with you with Dante Wright. We are with you with Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor." The same white America who says all that apparently wasn't there to see all those things. How about the LA City Council? How about the fact that the Oath Keepers, so many Oath Keepers were found in blue states like California, Washington State, New York. Not in Texas and Florida. Yeah, you found a lot of them there, but a good bit of them were in New York and California. You expect for that to get better when you have homeless Black men getting choked out on subways. You have Black mothers of 4 getting shot by a white supremacist in Florida who was attacking Black children. You got police officers shooting black children when they're the ones who call the police. And the child was unarmed. You got white supremacists shooting black children when they pull into the wrong driveway by accident. And then everyone defends this action. Everyone defends this person until you find out their own grandson comes on TV and says, yeah, my grandpa's racist. Yeah. Do you see the reasons why you got to break down this stuff? You can't just look at the headline. You can't just look at the headline and say, oh, well, that is it. No. You gotta look at all sides of this stuff, man. You gotta look at all sides of this stuff, man. Right? So let's keep going into this article here. Nearly 7% of black Americans said now is a more dangerous time to be a black teenager than when they were teens, including almost 80% of those 50 to 64 and 65 and older. So I want to go over that part, right? Because you see a lot of black teenagers, man. Raphael, Shinze Reed, Tamir Rice, Trayvon Martin. It is a dangerous time to be a black teenager. It is a dangerous time to be a black teenager. People are like, well, see, it's the culture. Okay, let me break something down to all the smooth brain morons out there. Let me say this slowly. We are 13% of the population, right? We don't control hip hop. You do get that, right? Hip hop doesn't make all the money it makes with just 13% of the population. Most of the people who control hip hop don't look like me and aren't black. Right? So with that being said, you control the industry. You put out a certain image. Why would you put out that image? We don't control it. We're only 13% of the population. You always bring up the 13% of the population when you want to attack us. Say, well, you're 13% of the population, but you do this crime. Okay, well, then let's stick to the whole 13%. Do we? Can 13% of your population control hip hop? Morons? No? No? So then who controls it? I mean, I just gotta ask, who controls it? You know, you complain about hip hop culture, but the thing about hip hop culture is that hip hop culture, the reason why you want to attribute it to Latinos and everybody else, right? The reason why you want to do that, right, is because you don't want to go back to the actual roots of African culture. Not African. I'm sorry, Black American culture. Because I'm not African. I'm actually a Black American. I had my family hasn't been freaking to the African continent since I don't know how long. We've been here, right? The thing is that you don't want to break down the actual history of hip hop. The actual history of hip hop is linked back to slavery and the chain gangs and the black church. See, if you go back to some of the earliest versions of hip hop, there was a group called the Jubilaries back from the 40s. In the 50s. And these guys, they would sing and they would dance, but they would do something else special. They would rap. They would rap, yo. They would rap. And if you listen to them rap, it sounds just like the stuff today. It's just a little bit slower, a little bit more basic, but you understand what they were getting at. And it was mostly just gospel stuff. But if you break down the roots of actual hip hop, actual rap, it was never about gangsters. It was never about guns. It was never about drugs. It was always about the black church, black struggle, and black empowerment. That's why the best rappers that we in the black community idolize are the most conscious ones. Have you ever noticed that? Like Tupac? Even Biggie. Biggie was very conscious. He was very aware of his black condition. Very, very much aware. Oh, yes, he was. That's why we love him. That's why we love him. That's why we can respect a Rakim. Right? Look at Kendrick Lamar. Why do you think he gets so much respect in the hood? Because when you listen to his album, you can feel that, brother. You don't hear a Kendrick song, you feel it. Look at Nas, very conscious. You don't hear a Nas song, right? You feel a Nas song. You don't hear a Nas beat. You know what I'm saying? A Nas rhyme. You feel that, brother. You control hip hop and you perverted that. You made hip hop into what it is right now. And then you levy it against people who have no possible way of controlling it at just 13% of the population. You've taken everything that was once beautiful about hip hop, the same way you took everything that was beautiful about Hispanic culture, Asian culture, Native American culture, Pacific Island culture. You did it to every single culture. You took what was beautiful about their cultures and you perverted it. The same way you did to our culture. See, I use that example to help people understand who ain't black or who just also might not happen to be white. They could feel me in what I just said, right? So sometimes you gotta meet people where they are. Meet them where they are. Sometimes your examples and your euphemisms and your metaphors are not gonna work for everybody. So sometimes you gotta find one that works for other people. A Mexican person can totally get the reason why I just said that. They know what Halloween and Cinco de Mayo, they know what happened to that. An Asian person would say, I totally get it because egg rolls are not Chinese. I totally get it. You feel me? Pacific Islanders will totally get it. They're like, they're like, I really, really wish some of these people would quit getting these tribal tattoos because it's kind of insulting. But, again, these people get it, right? But we live still in totally different realities. Why is that, man? Why is that? Let me show you something else, right? Let me show you something else. So, the White House press secretary was asked about reparations. And I want you to see what she said, right? Karine Jean St. Pierre. I want to see if it's on YouTube. I want you guys to hear this. Jean Pierre. I want you guys to hear what she said.
As it relates to reparations, I saw just moments ago Cori Bush's resolution. We haven't reviewed the proposal yet. It's a new proposal, so we'll take a look at it. So I can't comment on that specifically. But the president has been really clear as it relates to reparation. He wants to see a study of reparations and studying the continuing impacts of slavery. He believes that is incredibly important.
So he supports a study. When asked about cash reparations, Joe Biden's White House press secretary said that Biden hasn't reviewed the proposals. You haven't reviewed the proposals. You want the black vote, President Joe Biden, Jim Crow Joe. You want our votes. But you ain't talking about reparations. You ain't talking about reparations. Jim Crow, Joe, I gotta know. Why are you not talking about reparations? Let me show you something real quick. Jim Crow Joe decided to send the 40th aid package, right? No, that's not the right one. Here we go. Right here. This is a press release from the U.S. Department of Defense. President Joe Biden released another aid package to Ukraine. The 40th aid package, valued up to $325 million. I am not Ukrainian. I am not Russian. I don't care about what happens in those countries because those are not my problems. We should have learned that lesson from Iraq and Afghanistan and Vietnam. If it's not our country's problems, why are we spending our money on it? Now, the strangest part about this is that I don't like Marjorie Taylor Greene, but I actually agree with Marjorie Taylor Greene. I actually agree with a lot of the Republicans on this. Because it seems to me like it's only the Republicans who have some sense about Ukraine. The Republicans are absolutely right about Ukraine. Why are we sending all this money to this country that I do not care about? People are like, well, you don't care about what happens to Ukraine? There are homeless people right downtown. I know homeless veterans who are right downtown. Why in the hell are we sending money over to a country that I have never even been to? There are homeless veterans who are living under bridges right now. I know this because I do homeless advocacy. And it breaks my heart when I see a homeless veteran on the streets. As a veteran myself, why in the world are we giving money to Ukraine? That is not my country, and that is not my problem. I don't care about what happens to Ukraine. I am sick of my money, treasure, and our soldiers being used in conflicts that have nothing to do with us. We need to mind our own business. Mind our own beeswax. We have sent billions of dollars over to that country while American families are struggling through inflation right now. Why are we sending money to other countries I don't care about? American families are struggling to make ends meet. American families are struggling to buy formula. Let me go and tell you, I make 6 figures, right? My wife makes even more money than me, and even we are looking at our formula bill because we had a 12-week-old infant, and even we're like, man, this is expensive. So we can't imagine what a single mom is going through right now as we're sending billions of dollars over to a country that I don't care about and I've never been to, nor do I ever care to go to because of all the goose-stepping types you got over there. Azov's Battalion. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Biden administration announces additional security assurance for Ukraine. June 13th, 2023. Today, the Department of Defense announced additional security assistance to meet Ukraine's critical security and defense needs. This authorization is the Biden administration's 40th drawdown of equipment from DoD inventories for Ukraine since August 2021. It includes key capabilities to aid Ukraine's efforts to retake its sovereign territory and support Ukraine's air defenders as they bravely protect Ukraine's soldiers, civilians, and critical infrastructure, as well as artillery, anti-armor systems, and ammunition valued up to $325 million of taxpayer money. The capabilities in this package include additional munitions for National Advanced Surface-to-Air Missile Systems, Stinger anti-aircraft systems, additional ammunition for high-mobility artillery rocket systems, HIMARS, 155 millimeter and 105 millimeter artillery rounds, 15 Bradley infantry fighting vehicles, 15 Bradleys, 10 Strikers, Javelin anti-armor systems, tube-launched optically trace wire-guided tow missiles, AT-4 anti-armor systems, over 22 million rounds of small arms ammunition and grenades, demolitions munitions for obstacle clearing, tactical secure communications support equipment, spare parts, and other equipment. Wow. So let me get this straight. You made me, a cab devil, who would usually hate Republicans, despise Republicans. You made me agree with Republicans. I am saying right now, Republicans are absolutely right when it comes to Ukraine. Marjorie Taylor Greene is right when it came to Ukraine. Why are we spending so much money on a country that I've never been to? Why do I care? They're going through a war. So was Rwanda. Did we save them? No, we destabilized Libya. We destabilized Yemen. We destabilized African countries, black countries. And as soon as and the second that Uganda or any other country passes a law that we don't like, do you know what we do? We sanction them. The same, well, you got people saying, well, some of those laws are against certain communities. The same kind of laws that are in Saudi Arabia. Do we sanction them? Do we stop doing deals with them? No, we don't. We send them missiles. So let's go back here. Let's ponder the question. Why do most black Americans believe racism will get worse in their lifetime? Because while black Americans are disproportionately the homeless, while black Americans are disproportionately the ones getting released from prison, while black Americans have been demanding reparations, right? While black Americans have been demanding an end to qualified immunity, while black Americans have been pushed out of their businesses, out of their homes, out of their investments, out of their lifetime savings, out of their lifetime savings and their generational wealth, while all that's going down, while all that's happening, the Biden administration and Jim Crow Joe is sending $325 million to Ukraine, a country that I've never been to, nor do I ever care to go, because they're mostly racist from what I hear. They wouldn't even let the Africans leave when the Russians came in. When we all saw that, Biden, Jim Crow Joe, is sending the 40th Ukraine package for a country that I simply cannot care about. The only reason why we're sending money to Ukraine is because they're white. I must say it again. The only reason why we're sending so much money to Ukraine is because they're white. It's not because they're at war. Many countries have been at war, and we've seen it. We have picked one side over the other and crushed the other side, or we destabilize certain countries. You can't mention Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama and Joe Biden destabilizing African countries and drone striking black and brown countries, as many Republicans want to always mention, without also mentioning that's true. They were drone striking black and brown countries. Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden was. And Bill Clinton. Absolutely. So why are we drone striking black and brown countries? Predominantly black countries. But also sending the 40th aid package to this white country here. I just can't help but notice one of these things is not like the others. Just saying. One of these things is not like the others. Look. $325 million for an aid package, the 40th aid package for Ukraine. How much money have we spent on Ukraine so far? How much money has U.S. spent on Ukraine? Let's look that up real quick. How much aid has been sent to Ukraine? I want you to see this. How much aid has the U.S. sent to Ukraine? Since the war began, The Biden administration and the U.S. Congress have directed more than $75 billion in assistance to Ukraine. $75 billion. They have, listen, and that's just the United States. That's just the United States. Right? They have directed more than $75 billion. You have homeless people on your streets right now. Homeless veterans who are on your streets right now. I agree with Marjorie Taylor Greene. I agree with the Republicans. They are absolutely right on this issue. They should have been questioning this issue when Kevin McCarthy was questioned about it. He should not have backed down. He should have stood his ground. But guess what? Kevin McCarthy, being spineless, he fumbled on this. Because the question becomes, what stops Ukraine from turning on us? Didn't Russia invade this country? Russia is a white country, aren't they? So a white country invaded a white country. What's stopping Ukraine? Since we know there's a whole lot of people out there who are goose steppers out there, who like one of Germany's famous regimes, let's just say it like that. We know there are folks out there like that who are in that country. That's been known for like a while. So what's stopping them from taking that and turning it on African countries or becoming a dictatorship? Oh, by the way, while we're sending all this money, what is that doing to our tax dollars and inflation? People say, well, that's being pulled from the DOD budget. Oh, so our national security is being drawn from to protect the security of another country. Because you also know, it also goes into DOD funds for the VA. I know this because I'm a combat veteran rated at 100% compensation. I know this. I know where my money comes from. You see, I've been paid this for years, so I know. I know. So you're pulling money from our veterans. Oh, let me show y'all something real quick. See, there could be, so when there was a budget cut being discussed, right? Well, when there was a debt ceiling crisis, there were cuts that were being considered to the VA, to veterans and stuff. And cutting funding by 22%. So that would have affected medical care for veterans, funding for schools with low-income students and students with disabilities, eliminate preschool and child care for hundreds of thousands of children, strip nutrition assistance for millions of women, infants, and children, rob seniors of healthy meals, and that would have hurt veterans, right? So it would have undermined medical care for veterans. Cutting funding by 22% would mean 30 million fewer veteran outpatient visits and 81,000 jobs lost across the Veterans Health Administration, leaving veterans unable to get appointments for care, including wellness visits, cancer screenings, mental health services, and substance use disorder treatment. So those were some of the cuts that were being considered. I want to show you some more of this, right? Right? I want to see this from NPR. Veterans could be among the first to feel the pain of a debt default. This was published on May the 19th. We're in June. That was last month. So this shows you something, right? This shows you there is going to be cuts to the VA and to veterans and for veterans care. Meanwhile, the Biden administration has announced $325 million for Ukraine. Not only for the 40th Ukraine package, right? They have already since the war began, the Biden administration and Congress, the U.S. Congress have directed more than $75 billion in assistance to Ukraine, but they were considering cutting veterans' benefits. Veterans' benefits. My God. I wanted to cover that because I want to show what's happening. Black Americans are not the only ones who should feel slighted. White America, especially veterans and those who are sick and tired of being sick and tired, should get on board with foundational Black Americans, your native Black Americans, your Black descendants of American slaves. Lock hands with us. Fight for us to get reparations. Fight for us to get justice. Wouldn't you rather the money that's being sent overseas to countries that you've never been to, nor do you ever want to go to? Wouldn't you rather that money, instead of that being sent over there, to be sent right here with people that you know are going to spend it right here to support businesses? You say you want us to pull ourselves up by the bootstraps. All right, cool. Pay the debt first. You pay the debt, that's it. Your soul is wiped clean. It's clean. It's clear. It's done. And once it's done, it's over. It's beautiful, man. Hey, doing right by a people that was wronged, that is bragging rights, man. You have the opportunity to not only set a precedent, you have an opportunity to say that unlike any other country, we not only we have not only made amends for our native Black population, we paid them more than anybody. We did right by them. And that would give you an international footing. You're looking for something that would boost America up to prominence on the world stage for doing the right thing. America isn't being taken seriously because America has been a bully. But with that move, with paying reparations to your Black natives, to the Black descendants of American slaves, doing that, it will set you apart. You would then have the moral high ground again. You want to make America great again? That's how you do it. You repair Black America from the damage that was done. That's how you make America great again. You don't do it by sending $75 billion to a country I've never been to, nor ever plan on going to. And you don't do that by living in a different reality than the people who built your country. And you also don't do that, Chicago. I'm looking at you, Chicago. You also don't do that by approving $51 million for migrants after the native Black population there said, hey, that's not cool. That's not bueno. Let's archive this. All right, let's get into this, man. Chicago approves $51 million for migrants after heated debate. Chicago approved $51 million to care for migrants after more than 8,000 asylum seekers have arrived from border states since August. The 34-13 vote by the city council on Wednesday followed a heated debate punctuated by calls for more aid from the state and federal governments and question about why more funds weren't going to longtime residents in need. The meeting, presided over by newly sworn-in Mayor Brandon Johnson, and let me go ahead and tell you, Brandon Johnson does not care about black people, was marked by shouts, tears, and calls for the 2024 budget he will propose in a few months to address homelessness and other issues facing Chicago. No, the people there wanted you to address black people. The black people there. Some proponents noted concern for the migrants, many of whom are living on floors in local police stations. Others asked why such urgency for funding hasn't been shown for black communities who have suffered decades of divestment, violence, and school closures. Some aldermen asked why the money couldn't go to the homeless services for city residents or for reparations. Exactly. You're giving out money to people. Let me just remind you. You're giving out $75 billion to Ukraine, a country that I've never been to, and black Americans don't want to go to because, from what we understand, Ukrainians are racist. From what we understand, when the war broke out, they wouldn't even let the Africans leave. Right? So most of us don't want to go there. You've approved the 40th aid package for Ukraine for, once again, a country that I have never even been to, nor ever planned to go to. I'm not Russian. Don't want to go to Russia. Right? You have your girl here, Karine Jean-Pierre, saying that President Joe Biden hasn't reviewed the proposals yet for reparations. Hasn't even reviewed it yet. You were considering cutting funding for veterans. You gave $51 million to migrants over black communities and not for reparations. Again, I don't want to hear this whole thing of we ain't got the money. Shut up. Stop lying. That's gaslighting. You got the money. You got the money. I don't want to hear that no more. I don't want to hear that no more. I don't want to hear that no more. You got the money. Because when any other group pops up, do you notice this pattern? Suddenly all this money just pops up, man. I tell you, it's like whenever another group, right? Whenever another group needs something, this country is like Super Mario hitting a doggone brick in the freaking sky. Coins just pop up, Coins just pop up. It's just like Sonic hitting like Sonic the Hedgehog hitting a freaking spike wall. Coins just pop out. Rings just pop out. When any other new group needs something, even LGBT, over black people, even if something is promised for LGBT folks and it benefits mostly black LGBT folks, it's going to be cut off immediately. We couldn't have affirmative action. We couldn't have homes. We couldn't have cars because we keep getting pulled over. Civil asset forfeiture and civil forfeiture. We couldn't even have our freedom with slavery. Can't have nothing. And now you are taxing us, the same people who you didn't pay reparations to, who built your country. You are taxing us to give money to migrants and to, once again, a country that I've never been to, nor ever planned to go to. If you are black and you are watching this broadcast and you vote for a Democrat, you are a traitor to your people. That's all I got, folks, for tonight's Black People Kind of News. I said what I said and I meant what I said. I don't care who you vote for. Democrats have not earned our loyalty whatsoever. Until next time, guys, horns up, peace out, good night, and good luck.